Hi, this is Cris Moore, and we're at Second Half Studio in Sheffield, Alabama, with a member of the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, just one of our favorite songwriters, Peanutt Montgomery. How you doing, Peanutt?
Doing good, Chris.
Earl Peanutt Montgomery is known in the Shoals and in Nashville as a great songwriter, and what we want to talk about right now is a great song, one of my favorites, that Peanutt wrote called One of These Days. And before we get into how he wrote it and all, let me just read you something. This is from Emmylou Harris's The Very Best of Emmylou Harris, Heartaches and Highways. The quote in the album is, Elite Hotel contains a George Jones track that Emmylou unearthed one of these days. And here's what Emmylou said. You know when an audience really loves a song, you can tell. One of These Days is a song I still do every night. It's become one of those pivotal songs for me. If I have a style, I feel that this song defined it. It's the medium-tempo song with a lyric that's both secular and spiritual. I've seen her do it, Peanutt, and it's just a standard. And tell me, you've told me before how you came to write that song. You mind telling us?
I wrote that song when I was living in Florence, Alabama on Fairground Road. And I had a basement house, and I was going down to write in the basement, and I sat down on the steps and wrote it without writing on paper or pen or anything. There was no with pen in hand with that one.
Wow.
But I wrote it in my mind, and I talked to George, and he wanted to do one of my songs. He just transitioned to Epic from Music Corps, and he'd promised me he would do a song on that session. And I think I had 3 or 4 in the album from that promise that he made. But I remember I wrote it down on paper in the studio because I went up the night before and spent the night there at his apartment with him, and we kind of worked on songs. But that morning at the studio, I actually wrote it on yellow legal pad, and for the Jordanaires, the musicians, and everybody, and for George to learn it.
But no demo, no on
George
tape.
could learn. He could do songs quickly.
Wow. And you never even put it on tape, though, right?
No, I never demoed.
Wow.
No, many of my songs I never demoed at all.
You just went in there and...
I just go into Barbara Mandrell or somebody, Tammy or somebody, and just sing.
Wow.
With the guitar. I carry the guitar with me. And
well, Peanutt, as a songwriter that's demoed tons of songs and spent a lot of money on demos, and they're still sitting on a shelf a lot of times. That's amazing to me that you didn't even have to demo them. Just play them.
I had good producers. And
Billy Sherrill.
Well, Pappy Daly. And
Pappy Daly.
Actually, he was not per se a producer. He was just a man with the money. And musicians, the band was like Floyd Kramer, Jerry Reed.
Oh, great players.
Jerry Kerrigan drums, Pete Drake steel, and people like that. Wow. So they were very creative.
Right.
But in my era of writing in Nashville, Billy Sherrill was one of my producers, and he was very creative. And it seemed like somewhere along the line, guys would come out of these big cities, and because Daddy put them in positions with companies, and many of these new people have come from rock groups,
right,
and rock roots,
Well, he was a country boy from Phil Campbell, Alabama.
Yeah, but he studied gospel music.
Oh, is that
He studied pop music because he was a sax player and piano player. Billy was, and he is. But I didn't have to demo. On up later in years, I found out many of the producers get credit for producing hits, but the guy that wrote it and produced it
produces a good demo,
with good musicians.
Right.
They created the hit.
Well, let me ask you something, Peanutt. Was One of These Days, wasn't that just an album cut on George, or was it a single?
It was it was on the back side of the first Epic release. Billy Sherrill and Glenn Sutton wrote a song, We Can Make It.
Okay.
And Billy told me, he said, Peanutt, I'm going to put your song on the back because I had political pull, but Billy, because he was my friend, I'd been in bands with him, plus Al Gallico had a company, Al Town, with Tammy Wynette. So, and then Billy had one of the companies, I think it was Julep or something with Gallico, and so it was just all in the family, I guess.
But it was on that album, that epic
it was
album.
it was in the first album with George. And then this is what I've heard, that Dolly Parton was with Emmylou one night, and they were going over some things, and she said, "Well, you ought to do some George Jones song." So she said, "Let's go through this album." And so when Emmylou heard One of These Days, so I tell people at one time Dolly Parton pitched songs for me.
Oh, that's great. Well, because
she's recorded my songs.
Wow, that's right. And she and Emmylou are big friends from way back because they were in the trio together. So that makes sense that she would have played.
George and I wrote a song in 1967, 433. It was a hit with George. I think we sold 500-something thousand in 1967,
that's good
which
for
was. It was a hit for country music, hillbilly music in those days. But she, with Porter Wagner, did a duet on 433. So she recorded that, and then later on in years, I'd written a song, Where Grass Won't Grow. I actually wrote that song for Waylon Jennings. He kept telling me, "Oh, Peanut, I'm going to do it,
Great George Jones.
And I went out to his house one day with George. We had an old lay-mon. We took it out there and worked on it one day. Waylon told me, he said, "I'm going to do that song about where grass won't grow," but he never recorded.
And then George
did. And then, of course, Dolly Parton and Treasure Yearwood. And,
show us this plaque you got here. I'm lucky enough to have one of those, but you've probably got a bunch.
Well, I've won a BMI award. I won it in 1976. I won the country award, BMI, and then in 1977, went to California at Century Plaza Hotel. And I had dinner with Barry Manilow, Neil Sedaka, and a bunch of them.
Heavy hitters back then.
And they presented me with a Pop Award in 1977.
Wow.
But this is a millionaire play.
So it's been played over 1 million times when you got this. I'm sure it's way past that.
Compared to Hey Jude or something, I think the most played song they have record of is You've Lost That Loving Feeling.
Right. Been cut a bunch of times.
Well, yeah, but it's been played by the Righteous Brothers by oodles of times, I think it's 7 million plays. 7 of these they've given on it.
But 2 BMI awards and a certificate for over 1 million airplays for One of These Days, and
I have a
platinum album. I mean, that's not bad for an album cut that turned into a big hit.
I've had a certified album cuts, but this all came out of I don't even know how it came about, what inspired me to write it. I guess
it just came into your head.
I might have thought, well, one of these days I'll get all this plays, or something. I don't really know,
Well, I hope people that enjoy music and enjoy songwriters enjoyed kind of hearing the backstory on it. Sing a little bit of it,
But it is like a spiritual song.
It absolutely is.
Because it was like self-fulfilling prophecy, because later I was ordained a minister.
That's right.
And I preached, and I'm still preaching after 30-something years. And
sing a little bit of it, will you, Peanut?
I don't have to chop no wood. I can be bad or I can be good. I can be any way I feel one of these days. Don't have to answer to anyone. I'll get up with the morning sun, but I'll be gone like the birds that fly one of these days. One of these days it will soon be all over, cut and dry, and I won't have this urge to go all bottled up inside. One of these days I'll look back and I'll say I left in time, 'cause somewhere for me I know there's peace of mind. There's gonna be peace of mind for me one of these days.
Peanut, one of my favorite songwriters. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Chris.
You're at Second Half Studio in Sheffield, Alabama, and we're talking to Peanut Montgomery. Hope you enjoyed that.
Oh, somewhere for me, I know there's peace of mind. There's gonna be peace of mind.